It moved.
It was a massive mural of a jester. It had a mischievous, sly, underhanded expression, like there was more to the joke, or it knew something you didn't. Big, bulging cartoon eyes bursted from the wall across from her bus stop. Claire forced herself to break eye contact with it. But every time she did, she swore it felt like something changed about the image. Like here and there, new lines were added, or its expression changed in just the slightest bit that she couldn't quite put her finger on. A cold breeze brushed across her entire body. She shrunk. Claire leaned out and looked down the street. Her bus was late. She paced back and forth, peeking back at the mural. It was like one of those glass optical illusions where no matter where she went, the eyes followed her. A soft roar of an engine got louder in the distance. Claire sighed. She took another quick glance at the mural. Her eyes widened and she gasped. The mural morphed into a wide-open abyss of a mouth. It spread across the entire wall, like entering the jaws of Moby Dick. There were rows of sharp teeth. Curvy and bubbly lines turned sharp and hard. It was a new image altogether. The bus cut in front of Claire's vision of the mural. She screamed, like snapping out of a trance. The doors swung open. The driver looked at Claire with wide, curious eyes and a raised eyebrow. Claire stumbled onto the bus. She paid her fare and sat down in the aisle closest to the bus driver. The bus crawled through the city, picking up late-night strangers. Claire rested her head against the glass. She couldn't stop seeing the image of that thing in her mind's eye. There was a graffiti mural of LA legends like Kobe Bryant, Nipsey Hussle, and Tupac. Claire passed this mural many times on her way to work. She didn't recall them ever having those smiles. Mischievous, dark, one-sided smirks and curled lips that sent a shiver down her spine. Just as the realization set in, the light turned green and the bus drove off. As it did, all of the eyes of each figure in the mural followed her as the bus pulled away. A nausea punched her in the gut as her mind wrestled with the idea of the impossible. She couldn't unsee it. It was like looking at a statue and it twitched. Last stop. The bus driver's words snapped Claire away from her thoughts. The driver looked back at her through the rearview mirror as the door popped open. Did I get on the wrong bus? I'm sorry, miss, but you can't stay on the bus. This is the last stop. Claire grabbed her bag and stood up. She slid from out of the aisle and tiptoed to the front. She stepped off under the dim-lit orange hue of a tungsten street light that was engulfed by a void of darkness in between lights. The bus door slammed shut, roared, and took off, fading into the distance. Shadows of waving trees made her look over her shoulder. A faint sound of laughter in the distance made her stop. Claire looked around. There was just emptiness. Her heartbeat thudded in her ear, making it hard to hear the outside world. A trash can toppled over as a black cat darted out of an alleyway and down the street into an intersection. A car's horn blared out, just as it crushed the cat in an instant. The entire scene planted this sharp, guttural sense of uneasiness in Claire's stomach. A whistle from some indiscernible source snapped Claire out of her thoughts. She looked to see who the culprit was. Just underneath one of the cars was a pair of feet. They started walking towards the middle of the street. The streetlights overhead flickered and turned into strobe lights. And then, without warning, she was surrounded by complete darkness. Claire looked back at the feet. They were gone. Claire stumbled away and ran block after block in the middle of the night. She took the bus and went to work every day, so she should have known the area like the back of her hand. But she was lost. Claire ran towards looming downtown Los Angeles skyscrapers in the distance through streets of infinite streetlights for what felt like eternity. But those buildings looked like a plastered image on a background you'd find at the theater. The cars on the street felt less and less like machines made of metal and more like props in a stage play. Claire swore she saw the same cars in almost the same exact spots. She hit a dead end. She came face to face with a brick wall that seemed infinite in all directions. There was a door on it, right in front of her. Claire turned back the way she came. She froze before she took a step. Someone was standing out in the middle of the street in the shadows. They were just far enough where she couldn't make out their features. They writhed back and forth, heads spasming and shaking in a way that was unnatural. They took a step towards Claire, slow at first. Its movements got more erratic, faster with each step. The figure blinked closer all of a sudden mid-walk, like cutting out frames of a movie. It jerked, spasmed, and blinked, closing distance faster and faster. Claire ran for the door. She swung the door open and thrusted herself in. Things went black. Claire reached into the pocket of her uniform. The light of her phone created a dull halo that illuminated her face. She swiped and tapped on the screen until a flashlight bursted from the back of her phone. Claire took a moment to catch her breath. She felt a viscous slime between her fingers. She wiped her hands on her pants leg. As she moved, she could feel what was underneath her. Her feet made a squishing sound with every step. It wasn't a floor. Claire flashed the light around her. She squinted in disbelief. Deep, fleshy red walls surrounded her. This isn't real. Claire closed her eyes and said to herself, "Wake up. Wake up." She screamed and slapped herself hard. When she felt the sting across her face, she knew this was real. She froze. What was that? Something moved just underneath her feet. She froze her entire being, trying to discern her movements from anything else. There was long silence in complete darkness. A gunky, metallic smell of blood-stained mucus crept into her nose. She gagged and heaved, and when it was all out, she stood there in silence. The floor writhed and buckled with a sudden jolt. Claire screamed and dropped her phone. It landed with a soft splat. The floor squirmed and twitched again. Claire's foot slid across the floor. She fell. There were small, faint feelings of movement deep beneath the floor. Claire reached her phone. She tried to stand, but her head hit a fleshy ceiling. Thick mucus clung to her hair. The entire room pulsated and writhed, and things got tighter. Claire screamed, stuffed and muffled. Her head was locked in a sideways tilted position. She tried to stretch out, but she lost her foot somewhere in the fleshy mass. Then, like a contracting muscle, it tightened, and something snapped. Claire hollered as pain shot through her body. The flesh pulsed and closed. Then there were snaps from all different places. The screaming stopped. The walls jerked one final time and shut.